Hi, this is Lucy McCall of Ala Mesa Miracles. This is As Above, So Below, talking about August 2nd through the 9th, 2024. And the first thing to honor on this day is it is the beginning of Lunasa. In Britain, there's already been the fires on the hills and such, but it really continues up until around the 8th, which is when we actually have the midpoint between the summer solstice and fall equinox. And that's those midpoints are always at the 15-degree fixed signs. So here we are in the Leo one, the one full of the sun, full of light, full of the creativity of the summer. And it's a day, it's honoring the first harvest. And so here we have the berries, the choke cherries, the elderberries, whoever has elderberries, but of the indigenous things, choke cherries, and the wild plum are just kind of beginning to get, well, they're kind of small and green. Actually, they're not beginning much, but the apricots are happening, and I believe those aren't indigenous. I've heard that they're from the Middle East. Have you heard that? Yeah. And but we have them falling off the trees, and most of the places in Taos and Ranchos, they've already come and pretty much, well, not completely gone, but at my place they're gone. We picked them. And then, the cherries already happened. And anyway, it's that first harvest that we're doing. And around here, a lot of people get the greens right now more. And those of us who are later than like professional farmers are just getting the greens. So, anyway, so it's that honoring of the first harvest, and the name Lunasa comes from the god Lu, and the main thing I know about him is that he kind of was an Apollo type character, a solar character, and that he could do all the crafts, he could do all the music, art, he could do all the creative things. He was just a super talented Renaissance god, and and that's what they're honoring, that whole energy. So what happens in Britain at this time, but really all over the temperate part of the world, is we have more festivals, art and music, and all the different creative projects, or people are showing their art and selling their art in the parks and everywhere. And that's usually how in the ancient times it was honored, was besides the fire on the hill and honoring Lu and the creative and the solar energy, would also be honoring and having people selling their creativity and their first harvest. And that would also be, in Britain, it would also be some bread, not the wheat, but like the barley and the oat. So it's just I just really love this time of year, because it's just the heat comes out, which sometimes can be kind of hard, but the earth gets really warm, and everything is just, the fruit is happening. And around here also the chili is roasting, and there's a lot happening with all the goodies of the earth right now. So what also we're having this week is a yod that involves the new moon. We're having a new moon that has a yod in it. And that yod is with Venus. Well, actually, I'm sorry. The new moon is not in the yod, but the yod is happening on the same day as the new moon. Okay, so Venus is going into Virgo, and when this happens, and Mercury retrograde, we are having this yod between Neptune and Pluto. So Venus is in conjunct to Neptune, and Pluto is in conjunct to, Pluto is sextile to Neptune. And the in conjunction from Pluto and Neptune to the top is Mercury and the Sun, and on Monday it's even the moon. So we have a very poignant yod. And the yod is a term from actually the Hebrew language. It represents the the hand. That's what it means, is hand. And the focus of it is where the finger of God comes out, and that focus this time is Mercury, Venus, and the moon. So that's where like there's like a pointing of like, we should do this kind of thing. Neptune, Pluto sextile happens, once a month. We have, well, we've actually had the sextile since the 20s of 1920s. It's a long aspect because of how slow those two planets move. But every time the moon goes over the midpoint of that is a yod every month. But when we have like Mercury and Venus, and right there, this represents like a deep, deep time of communication, a real need to communicate, a real need for everyone to face up and talk to each other about things, and maybe just do that within your own self, just something that needs to be looked at and dealt with, and need to talk with yourself about, and maybe you need to talk with someone else about it, your confidant, whoever you talk to that way. So this new moon is very powerful in that way, and also the yod also has a lot to do with the yod also has a lot to do with serving others. It has a lot to do with taking care of the people in your community and the people near you that just need a little extra help. So it's a very important time. The next few days, in fact the whole week really, is about helping each other. So it's one of those times more than usual. And the new moon that is happening on Sunday at 5:13 a.m. Mountain Standard Time is at 12 degrees Leo. And it's kind of a tough new moon. We might get that once a year. We might get a new moon at Ashleisha. And Ashleisha is around 14 degrees Leo, and a few other degrees actually than that, but around that. And it is also, Ashleisha represents Hydra. It is also the constellation Hydra, and it represents the snake. So the snake in astrology, just like in many, many traditions, has a double-edged story to it. Part of it is that part, well, it could bite you and kill you or give you trouble. But the other part is the earth wisdom, and what the snake does and gives to the universe is it helps bring the rain. It eats rodents. It does a lot of things for our own balance. But it can be a rough cookie. You don't want to run into like a rattler in the forest without seeing it, and because we know it might bite. But it's kind of like that. And Ashleisha moon people, and when we're collectively dealing with Ashleisha moon, are that way. They can be very much important to the runnings of things, and they're very active. They're very energetic, but they also can have a bite to them. They can be a little snappy, and that can be a little hard on our feelings and stuff. And especially don't want them in a bad mood if they're running a military. They might start something. But they're very strong people. They're usually very sexy people. They're often very. They also can do healing work and they're also very good at exorcism. They're good at, like, if they're on a good path, they can exorcise the negative energy right out of a place, and they can pretty much abolish things that are bothering you. So they also have that gift, and in that way they're also very good as healers, because they can go in and see the negative things that other people cannot see, the things that are not quite right, and they can actually help get rid of them, mainly because they can see it. But they also know what they're calling to get rid of. So it is a very powerful time for all of us with this new moon. And the new moon also is, see, I wrote it all down, but it's kind of funny. Let's see how I wrote it. Okay. Okay, the moon is also in conjunct Saturn, and it's sextiling Jupiter. So that's what the new moon is doing. It's sextiling Jupiter and in conjunct Saturn. So you have the moon sextile Jupiter is very abundant and brings good blessing. In conjunct Saturn, it brings stress and structure, and it actually has a lot to do with the father energy and people who are running things, and it has, trying, for all of us who are who have to look up to others to work or to do anything, we have to not anger them right now. Yeah. I mean, it's always a good idea not to, right? But if you want to keep your job or whatever your position thing is, but it is kind of where that leader figure, that father figure, may be going, you got to do better, and you're already working overtime and not getting paid enough for it and all that kind of. It's kind of like working overtime and not getting enough pay. It's kind of like that, and it's also with people bugging you. They're like, you're not doing good enough, and then in actuality, you might really be doing good enough, and you are working very hard and all that kind of stuff. So we have to deal with some of that energy right now. Where, and well, really, in this country, I'm not sure what's going on in the rest of the world. There's just a lot of people who need workers. They need people to come work, and so the people who are working are getting more of the brunt of the stress of someone trying to run a business or whatever it is without enough people. So it's all about taking responsibility too. Saturn always is about taking responsibility. So those of us who are not in a position right now of working for others, maybe we're supposed to take responsibility and work for somebody else. And anytime you have a client, whether you're self-employed or not, you're still in a position of responsibility. So there it is. It's a very special new moon. Another aspect, a lot is happening on the new moon. Mercury is going retrograde on the new moon. Oh, don't we love that? I personally do love Mercury retrograde. It kind of mellows things out. And it's in Virgo. It goes into Virgo and then it goes retrograde. And then so it's going to go back into Leo, but it's going to go forward into Virgo eventually. And what Mercury retrograde usually does is kind of slows commerce down, slows communication down, slows things down that you need to be doing that have to do with communication and commerce. So just that's what happens. And the main problem is that if you don't get paid on time, that's usually the problem that most people experience, and we don't like it. And it could be, that kind of problem. But hopefully not. Hopefully that will be all right. And also Mercury is real strong in aspects because of it going into Virgo and because it's retrograde. And then it conjuncts Venus this week, and that's part of the Yod I was talking about. And Mercury conjunct Venus has a lot to do with just deep communication with the people you care about and being able to really talk deeply about things. And like I said, with Pluto and Neptune involved, it means there's some depth that needs to be dealt with, that needs to be looked at. Let's see, this new moon also has a Venus in conjunct Neptune. In conjunct is also called a quincunx. So it's not the same thing as conjunction. It's 150 degrees. So I need to start calling it quincunx because probably it might be sounding like conjunction on audio. I'm not sure. But just know that it is that way. It is in a quincunx or in conjunction, and that Venus-Neptune together doing that means there's some kind of adjustment that needs to be made on how you look at your relationships and how you look at art, your creative process. The in conjunction, when it's not in a whole yod, can bring kind of a martyrdom with Venus-Neptune. And that martyrdom can also be overly indulgent too. It's like trying to treat itself for having this problem. So anyway, it's just a very powerful new moon, and it affects us for 2 weeks. And this month is pretty powerful because we've got a Mars Jupiter conjunction beginning to happen. That's going to be, I think it squares Pluto at some point. I mean, it's a pretty intense month all together, and this next 2 weeks will be definitely a time of self-reflection. So I hope you can do something about Lunasa, the special day that, whether you call it Lunasa or something else, that cross point between the solstice and the equinox is just such a great time to celebrate and to be grateful, because it also represents whatever you're harvesting in your life in general. So there it is. And if you'd like to hear the day by day, please come to KNCE 93.5 FM, Taos, New Mexico. It's 4 p.m. Mountain Standard Time on Fridays, and I'll do a lot more then. And right now we're going to talk about clematis, which I consider a very mercurial type plant. Okay, this is wild clematis. It's native to our region. I think it's native. It's been here forever, I know that. But see how pretty it is. It has the little flowers, and then it turns into these seed pods. And in the early part of the summer, and even kind of like late June, it's also called June's bower, and it's also called Virgin's bower. And it can be wrapped around into a wreath for a little crown for a bride. And then it's also called Old Man's Beard. So it's kind of runs the gamut of old and young here. But one of the things I like about it, well, many things I like about it, I think it is a mercurial plant. I haven't read that, it's just what it seems like. It's very medicinal for headaches. And the headaches are, related to the brain, and the brain, that's one of those mosquito eaters, right? Yeah. Anyway, a little thing flew by. Where was I? Okay. What it does is it balances the blood flow into the brain, so that if a person is dealing with migraine headaches, this is a really good thing to take. It's a little bit toxic, so you don't want to take a lot. And I just make a tincture in the usual way, put it in alcohol, let it sit a couple of weeks, take little drops after you strain it off. But you don't want to keep taking it. But to me, it seems much better than taking like aspirin and those things in the long run. It doesn't hurt your body as much. But it's still that way. It's kind of a, just you don't want to take too much, but it does balance the blood flow into the brain, which is usually what causes a migraine. And so it's also very mercurial to me, because Edward Bach said that clematis was good for people who had a wandering mind. And again, there you have the mind, Mercury, same deal. And so I call it the plant that keeps your mind from wandering. So you make a flower essence at this time of year and use it for that if you have trouble staying focused, which just about everybody does now. So we all have modern day developed ADHD or something like that. Well, this will help that. This will help this a lot. And that's mainly what I have to say about good old clematis. I have thrown seeds down on the riverbank where the river was eroding to hold the dirt, and I think it's a good idea. It will strangle trees, so like here's this lovely chokecherry tree. I need to pull it out of there and use some of it for medicine, and the rest just compost it, because it will strangle that tree. And it won't die forever, that's for sure. It will just, control it a little bit. So